Hey, what's your favorite running gag in any D&D campaign? Leave yours in the comments below. No one knew the rules of Go Fish until an NPC was gifted a headband of intellect. The next time we saw him, he proudly declared, Guys, I figured out the rules! The artificer then took the headband off his head and he lost the knowledge. We all lost it, dying of laughter. My players nearly got TPK'd by the tutorial boss because of terrible rolls. So I made him a reoccurring mini-boss throughout the campaign with wildly outrageous explanations for how he survived the previous encounters. What are clerics? We had a new player join our table and he decided to play a cleric. When he did his introduction, my low-int monk asked, What are clerics? He couldn't roleplay an answer. The druid played dumb, and now no one in the entire world knows what clerics are. Sometimes if we ask an NPC, they'll freestyle an answer like, Oh, you mean paladins? Or whenever the new guy does something wild, we say, Oh, this is what clerics do. When one of my characters was comforting some child or other, I said he pulled a Toblerone from his pack and handed it to the child. From then on, the character had a never-ending supply of Toblerones. We said they were a special kind of elven candy in-universe. Now occasionally I'll have a character pull a Toblerone from their pack as a wink and nod to that first character. In the first session of my longest running campaign, the party approached a door. After mulling over what to do for like 10 minutes, they finally said, We knock on the door. I asked, Well, at the same time? Well, naturally, every door they see, whether they're being stealthy or whatever, they all have to knock at the same time. Thus, the door knockers were born. I have bounty posters that I make in Photoshop. The first one my party saw had a few typos, so of course they zeroed in on it and went, You put all that effort into making these things, dude. At least check the spelling. The second time they noticed it, they were like, All right, he's leaned into it. It's a running joke to him now. 3 years in real life after they spotted the first poster, they found that the poster maker, after months of being bullied for his poor spelling, snapped and murdered his colleagues at the guild. Now, there's a bounty on his head for murder, but there's no one there to draw what he looks like. This was always my plan, and it took me 3 years to pay it off. No one makes fun of my spelling. I close the door. After getting pummeled in previous fights, we opened a door to a closet. A broom animated and we rolled initiative. Our artificer went first. She'd been the one to open the door and go in. We all prepared for yet another fight. She said, I turn around and close the door. It sounds simple, of course, but it wasn't in any of our heads, including the DMs. The whole table busted up laughing. Ever since, we call it the Tink Maneuver. It's come up like 4 more times in that campaign. Hats as a way to determine a person's economic and religious standing. I was playing a dumb noble who wanted to pretend to be a commoner, so I stated that I needed a peasant hat. As I explained what that was in character, it became clear that my character believed the wider the brim of a person's hat, the more peasant they were. Field workers wore big hats, ergo. The more embarrassed by your social standing you are, the more you'll want to hide from the gods. So the broader the brim of your hat. At some point, the hat height came up too. Those are for how holy you are. As the taller your hat, the closer to the gods you are. Of course, none of that was true, but every so often a broad-brimmed hat will be mentioned, and someone at the table will inevitably say, Ah, look at that fucking peasant! The party was infiltrating an establishment of only tieflings and asked their tiefling sponsor how to seduce tieflings. They wanted to seduce one to get access to the laundry room to steal a uniform. The tiefling woman hesitated, glanced at her bedroom, and said, "Well, depending on who you ask, the horns are handlebars." That single sentence has been a running joke ever since. My first DM had a reoccurring NPC named Ahmed and his shop of wonders. Basically, Ahmed and his twin brother, Dima, would randomly be in the shop at any time. Ahmed would sell the players useful items, while Dihma delighted in selling them cursed or broken things. Imagine the storyteller at the beginning of Disney's Aladdin and his evil twin going into business together. There was a way to tell them apart, but it's been so long that I no longer remember what it was. The funny thing was that he was doing this bit years before Disney's Aladdin came out, to the point where when we first saw his character, we all delightedly cried, "Ahmed!" "Nothing to see here" has become a common phrase in our group because of one player who, let's just say, was struggling with the roleplay aspect. He had the mid-watch during a long rest, and the DM got super into character as a creepy manticore, poking its head through the bushes and asking for directions to the nearest orphanage full of tasty treats. The guy shrugged and just kind of blew off the manticore, who slinked away in favor of easier prey. The next morning, we asked if anything strange happened on watch, and he insisted, "Nope, completely normal watch." We explained, out of character, that a manticore visit is something most would consider strange. Well, he still insisted nothing happened. I would have thought it was part of his character, like he hallucinates often, so he didn't think it really happened, but the DM was just as confused. Now, we use the phrase anytime we see towns in the middle of wars, dragons pillaging castles, or other obvious plot hooks. "Hey, seems normal." My character had never ridden a horse before joining the party. She hates horses. She taxidermied a direwolf head into a hat to put on her horse to make it less horse. She has refused to learn how to mount and dismount, so she T-poses next to her horse, waiting for our paladin to put her on it and take her off. That is hilarious! I played a Goliath barbarian with a very low wisdom score. During a dungeon crawl in our first session, there was a lever disguised as a torch on the wall that opened a secret door. For the rest of the campaign, about 8 months, every time my poor barbarian saw a wall-mounted torch, he'd walk up and pull it to see if it was a lever. Most of them just broke because he was too strong and they weren't actually levers. For some reason, though, he kept all the broken torches, and by the end of the campaign, he had like 19 broken torches in his inventory. It got a good laugh from the party and a groan from the DM every time. Whenever someone loots the body, they always find a packed lunch. It's always something different, too. The more disgusting the monster, the more disgusting the lunch. The dead drow had a jellied spider eye sandwich and a tub of pickled slugs. Ugh. The hobbit had a mushroom and gravy sandwich with a side of pig feet. Ugh. It just gets weirder from there. In one of our earliest campaigns, a Dwarf King fainted at something, and we all joked about it out of character. Like, what a low constitution, how embarrassing. The spellcaster in that campaign was a gossip. Now, every spellcaster in any campaign thereafter will receive a chain message started by her that says, "Dwarf King fainted, pass it on!" It has no context to any of the PCs, but we still cackle about it as players. We played a campaign where we were iconic monsters, basically D&D monsters with classes, and the DM threw adventurers at us. My friend was an Etin named Mudmother, who was naked and disgusting. Our sorceress NPC cast Fly on her once, and she loved it, describing the magical feeling of finally being weightless. A bunch of squirrels saw her pass by their tree and immediately vomited in horror. Jesus Christ. She flew a lot in that campaign, and every time she did, woodland creatures and trees would retch. That's frickin' great. We're a Turkish group, and in Turkish there's a phrase, Alev Alev, which describes when the weather is so hot, it literally means flame, flame. It's also used to describe things like an amazing goal at a football match or an attractive person. Basically, think of it like lit. During character creation for a 5th edition game, we were exploring possible patrons for a fiend warlock. Someone suggested a classic trope where a devil appears when a character is near death and offers power in exchange for their soul. I suddenly imagined the same thing happening, but just after the dreadful devil disappears and the character rises as a warlock, another fiend appears and says, "Oh, not again!" and disappears. So I created a devil who was always late and almost always missed opportunities to recruit warlocks. His name was Alev, and he made cameos in funny moments when we felt goofy. Eventually, I decided to take him out of the comic relief aspect. Now he's a powerful fiend who lost a bet against Asmodeus and is cursed to constantly miss out on pacts with potential warlocks. He's still funny, but he actually has a place in my world. The Whiskey Brand product. The Whiskey Co. started as a throwaway joke when a player playing a posh character tried to order a fancy drink at a crappy dive bar. After multiple rounds of the bartender being confused by his order, he finally said, Fine, then I'll just have a whiskey." The bartender smiled and said, "Oh, now that we've got," and poured him a mug of Whiskey Brand beer. It just kind of snowballed from there. Now the Whiskey Co. always pops up in my games whenever I need a storefront or a product on the fly. Pretty much the only thing they don't sell is actual whiskey. We have a buddy who just can't escape this joke. Years ago, he made a comment about half-elves, and now, for years, he's racist toward half-races. What's funnier is that his current character is super suspicious of every half-race, but also has a soft spot for them, like he secretly loves them. One hilarious scenario was when we were staying at a public campsite, and a couple of half-race twins caught his attention, and he started flirting. They approached him first and showed interest, and we were already rolling our eyes like, "God, come on, keep it in your pants." Myself and another player kinda got suspicious, but couldn't figure out why. The twins eventually lured him off for fun, and we followed stealthily. After some time, it turned out they were cultist changelings sent to take us out one by one. We got to him just in time before they could kill him. One of them got a crit on their backstab, dropping him to 1 HP. I had to dimension door us away. We healed up, took them out, and now he's the half-race hate lover forever. Hey everybody, Brian Von VA checking in after the vid. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and of course let us know in the comments below what's your favorite running gag in any D&D or TTRPG campaign. And of course, if you want to keep our furnaces fired up this winter, make sure to leave us some love and join our membership program. You get early access to videos, maybe some more goodies later, but until then, we do love you all. Please be safe, happy, and healthy. We'll see you next time. Toodaloo.